Happy Fangirl Friday, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Fangirl Friday Live. Yay! Thanks for spending your time with us. Welcome back if you've been back with us before. Welcome for the first time if this is your first time tuning in. I'm really happy to be joined today by my friend Jonathan. We're going to talk about fandom and unlocking fandom and the business behind fandom. Be sure to also put in your comments and your questions because we'll be addressing those throughout. So I just want to kick it off with saying, welcome, Jonathan. Thank you for joining me again on this, fun little ride. Hopefully we'll have some fun and drop some knowledge
I'll do
this
my
week.
best. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, the fun part we'll cover. Well, the knowledge part, we'll go with it. But so we will start off by talking about you, because I know it's
Oh,
all about you. So let's tell us who
not
you
like
are and what do you do.
actually. I'm the first to revert it to you, but
This time, spotlight's on you, brother.
oh man.
So tell us about yourself.
Well, my name is Jonathan Cathey, owner and founder of the Loyal Subjects, which is a collectibles sort of pop culture company. We specialize in stylized figures and action figures and all sorts of wonderful licensed products. And we've created some of our own products and our own IP. And we have this expansive retail presence and sell products to Walmart and over 20, Walmart, Target, Hot Topic, Box Lunch, FYE, GameStop, the really the sort of destinations for collectibles. And our products are sold in over 26 countries. We sold over
Wow.
action figures. And that's it. I come from Laguna Beach, California. Came to LA when I was 19. So I've lived in Los Angeles for 26 years. And my office is in downtown Los Angeles. So we're kind of really like an LA company, but my vibe is still very much Laguna Beach. I grew up and skating and playing in punk rock bands and still music and sort of surf and skate cultures. Still part of my DNA, very much so.
Yeah.
And
I see your instruments behind you there. Yeah. So you're still playing, huh?
oh yeah. So drums, guitars, the whole thing. I try to play as much as possible. There's a small bit of will in me to want to start a band again, which is, who wants to go see a bunch of like 46-year-old guys play? Probably not. But
some more 46-year-olds.
The curiosity is still there. I still play a lot, actually. I play more drums. I was playing more guitar than I was playing drums. Now I'm back to drums, which is my first instrument and probably my best instrument. But I still play.
Wow, that's great. So do you think that fed into your like career pathing at all? Or I guess I should say, let me ask you the question I ask everybody else who comes on, which is, what are some of your fandoms?
Yeah. So early on, obviously, surf and skate. That was like my big thing. If you're from that area in Southern California, you kind of, are exiting the hospital post birth with OP shorts, a tiny skateboard and a tiny surfboard. So that's sort of my ethos. And I think we bring that into the brand. I feel that the Loyal Subjects is more of like a brand experience than just sort of like, here's a figure to sell at market. And I think part of that identity comes from the surf and skate culture, because skate culture was tribal, it was about brand, like I wear a Quicksilver, or I wear a Gotcha, or I'm Town and Country, whatever. So that was pretty influential on me, like, Tony Hawk with Birdhouse and all those things. So I'd say surf and skate was probably the first influence. And then I got addicted to rock and roll. And then punk rock came into my life and my whole world sort of exploded and Ramones. And I think, as we were kind of going back and forth early on, I shared an anecdotal story of that. One time I met Joey Ramone, I was able to sit down and talk with him, and it was like mind blown. I actually had a reset moment because we're doing an Angus Young figure.
Okay.
Angus is like my guitar god. I listen to AC/DC, probably an AC/DC song every single day. I religiously try to imitate his boogie woogie style. It's, impossible to imitate. He's such a genius in all of his delicacy and or delicate nature of his playing, but you know, is a small guy with a huge sound. He's just kind of a monster. And he's actually reviewing our submissions. Angus Young.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
God, you know, I'm kind of talking to Angus Young. This is surreal.
yeah, definitely. I had that with Warwick Davis one time. Actually, it was just really. I met him once or twice, definitely, when I was at Hasbro. I had this picture with him, and so it was great. He came by our booth the one time, but so I was like, oh, this is fun. But my most surreal moment came when I was working at Lucasfilm, and he has a separate company and some other things that he does on the side besides just being Warwick Davis, you know. And I was talking to him about his business, and it was this really strange moment where I put the phone on pause, like the speaker on mute on my side. And I was like, I'm sitting here talking to Warwick Davis, like about stuff. Like, this is crazy.
That's cool. I mean, hey, Will is like one of my favorite movies, actually. And then obviously he's in Ewok, so that is pretty cool. I met George Lucas actually backstage at the MTV Movie Awards like years ago when we were working with MTV on a couple things. And I, as a young man, I got the Rebel Alliance tattooed on my shoulder, and I showed him. I was like, "Yeah, you know, I'm a big fan of that." And he was holding a plate of food. And he goes, "That's nice."
Yeah, that's George. Yeah, I never met him in person, like per se, but I was in several large room gatherings with him. And he was always just kind of, you know, even keel, right? Just the same overall. Like, totally. Okay.
Yeah, there was a moment in time where people were saying that, you know, they're like, God, you kind of look like George Lucas. And I was like, wait a minute.
I can see that. I think
it was the gray hair. And it was
I can see it in profile too, though. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and sometimes like, not because I like beards, it's because and I don't want to shave my face all the time. And I shave it when my face gets too hot.
Yeah. So now we know what the temperature is outside, because you have no beard.
I actually last night I told my girlfriend, it's like, I'm done with this. You know,
pandemic beard is gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of the pandemic, like how has that been going for you guys? Like how has been the loyal subjects, or your personal experience? Like, how has it been going?
Well, it's different because the experiences are coming from different sides. It's like your personal life. So how you intellectualize it, and you know how you know your sort of your emotional response to it. You know, the first thing is like, are we all going to be safe? You know, so that's the first thing, and then ensure my household's safe, and that I'm safe, that my mother's safe, that our friends are safe. So there's that aspect, and the curiosity, not curiosity, but you know, hyper focus on your movements and how you in the world. There's also the philosophical side of, you know, this moment of pause a little bit. My work hasn't paused. It's actually been more frenetic because of having to change strategies, you know. And it's like we had specialty, you know, like 5,500 doors shut down overnight. And you know, really sort of focused down on product development and moving our strategies to retailers that were open, essentially, and then to online. So there's that contortion, there's your spiritual contortion, there's your emotional contortion, and then there's the people that you feel responsible and accountable to, which are employees, and which we don't even call employees, we just call them team members, that we're all part of this team, right? And you know, my concern was first with their health first, and then financial security second. So those were two things that I really, you know, that I took to heart seriously, about how to secure everybody, you know, and through this time, because it's confusing for everybody. You know, I've never lived through a pandemic. When I opened a business, I didn't get the handbook that says, here's what you in a pandemic, you know? Yeah. Just learning as we go, right? And then putting our best foot forward and trying our best and being compassionate and being human. and being spiritually and emotionally connected. And I think that's the best you can do, you know?
Right. Right. Well, if you build a community, community, I often talk about community, and especially in fandom, like it's huge. You're connecting with these people of like-minded, even if they don't always enjoy the same thing as you, but even within your work, environment and such, if you're part of a community, it's easier to kind of share the burden, right? Or maybe take care of each other or bounce off each other creative ideas or whatever it is that you're trying to do. But as opposed to like, employees, if you're having in a community or team members, and it's a different perspective.
Totally, totally. And it's, everybody's an individual and everybody has their own emotional response to this and their own set of worries and their own set of precautions. So it's like, it's hard to get a one size fits all strategy.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own sort of point of view and fears and anxieties about that. And it's like, my job is to see where I could be of service and to help. I mean, even as you were saying with community, I started doing these, the Loyal Subjects I feel is a sort of emotional driver for a lot of people because we supply nostalgia. The entry, the price of admission isn't that much. The community of our collectors is really bonded. The friendships they got, people that have never met each other from Australia to Tennessee are now friends and they're bonded. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of strength in our community and also anxiety. So as we started seeing the job numbers drop and, started seeing what the effects of COVID were, I kind of came to the team or to the community, the Loyal Subjects community and some of our social and said, okay, I want to do these Thursday fireside chats, which is essentially just about keeping people connected. Mm-hmm. And then I would play games and we'd do giveaways. And the games were really centered around play and connecting and, going inside and finding, and basically letting your passion reign supreme and sort of these sort of creative exercises. And creativity has always been sort of like a therapeutic idea, right? Mm-hmm. Play supports endorphin production, using your imagination is a pathway to happiness. So I really wanted to promote that in our community to snap out of the reality for a while, Right. We have the ability to not just have a something that we have in common. It's like totem that we have in common and that we all kind of love and share and trade and buy and do all these marketplace things. But we can also rely on our own imaginations and tell our own stories. Right. And I feel that's been therapeutic for everybody, including myself, of, hey, get those endorphins up, get the, let play happen. It's okay. Get to the sandpit and to the blanket fort and allow yourself to be that kid, Yeah. And that I think it's had some therapeutic value to everybody.
So how was the Loyal Subjects actually formed? How did it come about to kind of be this conduit and brand experience we were talking about, kind of off before this started? Before the show started.
I'm really a creative. I mean, it's my natural instincts are, drawing, painting, playing music, things like that. So sound, shapes, colors, those are all sort of native to me. They're germane to me. The business side wasn't germane. I had to learn that along the way. That was, through curiosity. But I like to create things. So I created something and I like to tell a story. So I created something and told kind of really funny story and MTV optioned it for a TV series, and then it just went to development hell and never got made. But
many times.
Right, but that kind of launched me into, okay, well, how can I translate my creative ideas and my passions? How can I translate that into something that I can communicate with a broader audience on it? And I always liked toys. I was born in '74, so I was like prime target for that 1984 explosion through that time. Yeah. So it was an impact. All you have to do is watch the toys that made us to understand how impactful it is on that Gen X, in that Gen X idea.
That was like a trip down memory lane, that show for me.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and it's what we all grew up with. These exciting, dynamic, uh, you know, toys and collectibles and stuffed animals and cartoons and these really fun play patterns that we all kind of let our imagination reign supreme. So
right.
I like that. I was influenced by that. And as I was a struggling musician in Los Angeles, I love playing drums. I still do. But as the hour clock starts running out on, is this going to happen? I looked at other ways to express myself creatively, and toys was just one of those sort of mediums that I could express myself creatively that seemed to translate to more people than actually the music did,
Mm-hmm.
And I like building things, and that's how I kind of came into it, and had some successful responses early on, and then just started building from there, and then telling other people's stories too. So we would license, and we get like Transformers or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and then we would try to tell those stories,
right,
with a little bit of a spin, a little bit of our own flavor to it. But we tell the stories in a genuine, native way, and I liked the connection that some of those IPs already had. It's like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles had 30 years of goodwill. Transformers. If you're a kid that grew up in the early '80s, I mean, Transformers was cool, right? So they had all these really great story elements intact and all this goodwill, and it was fun to tell their story in a succinct way through toy.
Right.
So that's kind of how we got into it, and then 5 million figures later, which compared
5 million. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, totally. And we've done over 2,000 action figures, unique.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's really crazy.
That's really.
I mean, I'm saying it's crazy because not that you were able to do that, but just in the short amount of time that I've known you, that you've been able to do that. Like, that's pretty fast growth.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think we're just like we're literally insane.
For that level of development, maybe nobody's sleeping.
Yeah, my partner is like, he's probably half the time he's like, man, you're nuts.
Lots of coffee.
Yeah, it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of hours, but I like to work when it's in that side.
Right.
Also, I have to do the administrative stuff and all the normal business dynamics and look at things in a real sort of X's and O's way about growth and cost and the whole thing. But to be able to put the canvases out and start moving paint around that's where my heart is, and I love it.
Well, how did you feel like making the transition from just the creative piece, like the prototypes, or I developed this toy, what have you, selling it in, and then you have to like all of a sudden run a business, do the finances, invoicing, billing. Like, how did all that transition happen for you?
It was hard, and part of it was just survival.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I was used to it. I kind of had, I had a story of like, my parents are great and they're great people. But I was out of the house at 19, and they kind of had a philosophy of like, go fly. Right. So I kind of had to figure it out. And
wow.
From Laguna to LA, which are two very different dynamics.
Yeah.
Laguna Beach, you kind of get away with, being a valet at the Hotel Laguna for 10 years. Los Angeles, it's like, oh my God, it's a whole new world. And it's like, man, you're lucky if you get a job at the pizza place.
Yeah.
Move here, it's like, that's how I felt. So there was a part of like, okay, I got to figure out college. I got to figure out my life. I got to figure out where to live and make all this stuff happen. And so I think the survival instinct kicked in.
Fight or flight. Which one is it going to be?
Totally.
Yeah.
And playing in bands, there was another survival element, especially when you're on tour and you have no money. So we just had to rent in bands, and then we'd be sleeping on couches and friends and allies and trading resources and having someone else a box of granola bars cars and stuff like that. So I
Yeah.
kind of had some of those instincts, and I think I had a curiosity, and thank God for my education. I was able to go to college, and I think having this sort of the college format's interesting. It's very disciplined. The critical analysis, the form, all of it takes effect as part of your cognitive ability.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. So college was a game changer for me, and it allowed me to work through problems and have the curiosity where things necessarily didn't feel good. There may be a brain strain, but I was curious to work through those issues, those problems or those things I didn't understand. And that was part of, a combination of college and a combination of this sort of survival instinct I already had.
Yeah. Fake it till you make it.
Totally. As I was saying, when we were chatting earlier, it's like nobody really knows what they're doing. I think it's either Richard Meyer, one of the architects, famous architects, was like, every time I approach a design, I have no idea. And this is a master. You kind of hear that from everybody. It's like, as the render comes later.
Mm-hmm.
You're assembling the picture. There's a moment in that time that you're completely lost, and you really just look at the next step.
Yeah, get through this one. Let's figure out the next one. But there's a lot of people who don't know how to bridge that gap, right? Between like, I have a vision and I know where I want to go, but I don't know how to get there. And that's where I think that's when you start building networks, building like if you have a community or if you have people to call upon that are smarter than you, you kind of like, hey, how about you help me do this? Or can I pick your brain about that? And I think most people are willing to help you, help a person get along or, learn something new. If you have enough money to hire them, then, more power to you, because that's even better when you hire somebody who's a little smarter than you. I think those are great tools to have, but it's hard because sometimes you don't know where to start, right? You don't know what you don't know.
Totally. Yeah. It's like, what point do you plot that first course on, and there is no map, and I don't know if there's a right or wrong reason or wrong way. It's just, you just jump somewhere on the way. And okay, that's X. Now let's get to the next,
Unfortunately, you find out if it was wrong after you jump.
You do. And then it hurts, and then you go, I don't like that yet. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of it's just experimentation. And to your point, and I had it wrong early on. I thought I had to know everything, and I had to know right. But what I realized is that nobody knows anything, and nobody knows everything, and you do have to ask for help. You have to rely on people that will get on board with your vision and understand your vision, and you have to ask for help. If you don't ask for help, there's no way you can do it by yourself. It's impossible.
No, absolutely not. I have an amazing network of people who have been very helpful to me along the way. Their mentorship, I believe strongly in mentorship, and those people have mentored me. And I think I can count literally on 4 fingers the people who played pivotal roles in my career. Like each time that person that I was working with or what have you, like pivoted my career. And then obviously they didn't do it for me. You have to do the work for yourself. Yeah. But they open a window, open a door, introduce you to someone or give you an advice or give you a call or whatever, present an opportunity. And then you have to prove yourself, of course, right? And not doing wrong by them is a big motivator for me. Like, oh my gosh, this person gave me an opportunity, then I really have to work my butt off to prove that I was worthy of that opportunity. But yeah, I mean, and having, a network of people when I went independent and became an independent agent like 2 years ago, the Women in Toys group, shout out to the Women in Toys team, whoever's watching today, but they are an organization that puts their money where their mouth is. And they literally not just say, oh, it's good networking. Yeah, it's good networking. But also when you need to call upon somebody and move your career or get some skills or do something like that, you can call upon these people and they will share hard, like facts, information, evidence, or knowledge, or whatever. And so if there's an environment or organization like that for anybody, whatever, depending on what you're doing, I always highly recommend something like that, because there's no way that anybody can know how to do anything by themselves, especially business.
It's absolutely impossible. And some of my biggest mentors have been my professors by far. I've learned a lot through music mentors and really talented musicians that, wanted to help me improve my music abilities.
Yeah.
And what I learned is more about how musicians approach the instrument as sort of an expression of life. And there is a lot of of doing the right thing, but you're going to make mistakes. You have to accept yourself for being human and being fallible. It's the nature and beauty and imperfection of being a human.
Right.
So I did learn a lot from music and for my professors. The toy industry, I was kind of an outsider. It's like I had an idea and I wanted to do something, so I was an outsider. It wasn't like I natively come from this industry. And so I think early on, I probably should have I should have brought myself in a little bit closer to some of these guys. Now I know some of the company owners,
right.
fraternity. And then I know a lot of people in through that industry. And the one thing I would say is and the companies that look like their products are so great, you could tell the passion's there.
Yeah.
That's what I love, The
high quality is there.
Yeah. And I know that you've had Brian Flynn on. I would say that he's he's one of those high passion guys. Mez, who owns Mezco, high passion guys. McFarland's high passion guy is still drawing all the time.
Yeah. Right.
It's really great to see these essentially creative run businesses. Sometimes the toy industry can be purely transactional, but my fraternity is more with the creative guy.
Yeah.
But it is exciting to see how that passion kind of pulls in, and then how we can all talk and exchange ideas, things to help improve our sort of creative sharpness.
So you talked about a little bit for mistakes, right? You always everyone has good intentions mostly, and they try to do right, in their decisions in their business. They try to do, what are some of the, maybe one big blunder or something like that? Which was a big blunder that you chose, or a wrong license or wrong business decision? But then how did you recover from that? Because that's always the hard part.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's one, because
when do you want to share?
So many mistakes, and I think the one thing each mistake has in common is ego. It's I let my ego get in the way every single time, or my emotions get in the way, and that has been the downside and sort of the subtractor of opportunities. The plussing on opportunities is when you surrender your ego and you really truly become an observer and you listen. And that's something I have to work on, and I still work and struggle with that every day, and some of these are sort of, these ideas, are you good enough? Are you not good enough? So they all play into insecurities and, and sort of like self-doubts.
Yeah.
So and I don't think I'll ever have it mastered, but if I can move myself more into a place of listening and more into a place of support and supporting other people, mistakes will be, my end of my mistakes will be less. But I attribute almost every single one of my mistakes to my own ego.
Interesting. So, when you're selecting, licenses or, new properties or anything like that to try to implement into the business, and develop a new figure line or what have you, are you also incorporating, let's say, in that spirit of listening, are you incorporating like employees that are really big fans of these particular properties, so that kind of shines through the product as well?
Absolutely. So the Loyal Subjects isn't like a guy does everything. The Loyal Subjects is a giant team does everything, right?
Right.
So I view myself as just a team member. You know, I'm a part of it. But my creative team is fantastic. You know, our senior designer, he just knocks it out of the park. I mean, he's a total rock star, and he brings his creative palette in. Our sculpting team, these guys are phenomenal. They bring all their creative experiences in. These are like our senior designer is he was an opera singer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was on Broadway and things.
Wow.
And yeah, our head sculptor he was a musician, and he was like this integral piece of like the goth club culture in LA in the late 90s. And he's such an interesting, wonderful guy. I absolutely love him to death. And then there's, you know, the operations people. The whole team is actually very creative.
That's great.
And they all have their voice, and they all have their input, and it's the culmination that creates, you know, great products. So
right.
I would say everything from the little subjects is born from a team and not from an individual.
And their love of a particular property or aesthetic or something like that, probably.
Yeah, let's say our senior graphic designer he's a big pop culture fan. So, you know, he truly loves it. He really loves the characters. You know, the rest of the team, they're huge pop culture fans too. So we don't really have anybody on the team that's like they came here for a job.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's like
I don't think you do what we do when you come for just a job anyway.
Totally. You know,
yeah.
they around toys, and they like being around the culture, and they like having input on or participating in the pop culture that we participate in. So I think that hopefully translate out to their passions, but the passion in the product, but there's nobody mails it in.
Yeah. I think we have a question or a comment.
Yeah. From Yensa0916. What was your aha moment when you knew your company was going to make it?
What was your aha moment when you knew your company was going to make it?
I don't know if we made it.
Interesting.
We're still making it.
You're still climbing. You haven't reached the pinnacle yet.
Yeah, we're still climbing. I think.
But that's an interesting perspective, though, that there's probably people looking at you thinking, oh, wow, they've made it, right? And you're still feeling like we're still climbing.
For sure. Yeah, we're like, you know, we're a tenured startup.
Yeah.
You know, but we have these opportunities to build and really really pull some impact on the main stage, which is really exciting. But we got to jump through you got to fill those shoes and execute, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're right now. So let's execute. But when the aha moment of when I saw that people would connect to this medium that, you know, we were sort of curating, was early on. And I think it, you know, it sort of goes back to how dolls and toys and totems have worked through time. You know, it's been a piece of every culture.
Right.
These objects hold energy for people, you know?
Right.
You tell that story in a genuine indigenous way, you will get that visceral response that these now hold a certain energy, and they hold memory for people. And so I knew that as from the first time I made something, that it's like, okay, they're identifying with it because it holds a certain energy and it's a response because of it.
Right.
You know? So, but when we started seeing the little subjects tent grow out a little bit, was on the back of Transformers, because it meant so much to that generation.
Right.
You know? And to see another take on it was like, oh, that's cool, you know?
Yeah.
And
I definitely was one of those kids running home to watch Transformers. I mean, yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
It does. It with your backpack at 3 p.m. to the couch.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's why I actually wore my TMNT shirt today, by the way. Yeah, it's like my Turtles button-down shirt here.
Love it.
To be professional. But yeah, I mean, it's a multi-generational effect too, because then when the new Transformers movies came out, I mean, I was definitely showing my kids, you know, what Transformers was about, and then showing them the retro Transformers and sharing that with them.
Yeah, exactly. And that, I call that the Lego effect, where generations meet another generation and something together.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And I think there are these generation aspects to some of what Hasbro created.
Yeah, for sure.
What they brought in, or guys like Kevin Smith and Peter Laird. It's, these guys have ushered generations through this story, which means the story and the character development was powerful.
Yeah, and timeless, right? Because if it still applies, 40 years later, 30 years later, what have you, then there are themes and story beats that apply to each generation. So there's something at the core which will appeal to everybody.
Exactly. And I think as a toy maker or a collectible maker, it's our duty to sort of safeguard those stories and tell them in a succinct and genuine way.
Right. Right.
And that's what we try to do.
Well, when I was in the studio side, specifically doing Star Wars licensing, I felt like my role wasn't just a deal maker, right? I felt like I was a caretaker of the brand, and so all of my decision making would flow through that type of filter and that, perspective. I mean, there's other perspectives that I had as far as like licensing as a dialogue with my fans, or not my fans. I hope I have fans, but with the brand's fans.
Okay.
But that would be also another perspective where when you're doing the deals, hopefully you're doing deals that serve for longevity, right? And continue to serve into the storytelling or the properties that are, the moments in time that are recreated, that are memories, like you're saying, for people to take home with them. From a film or whatever, and then it's not just a thing. It's not like a chunk of plastic. It's, it's an opportunity to have a dialogue with your fans at that time. And then they're expressing their fandom in a way that's important to them. So I feel like there's a lot of variety. There should be a lot of variety in licensing, but it also should be good quality stuff too, so that you make sure that you're giving the fans something that they're willing to pay their money for. And so you should respect that.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, those are temples of how we sort of decide on what we're going to do. Is it affordable? Is there a great experience behind it?
Mm-hmm.
Does it serve the story?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of our approach to it. So it's like we know the powers in the story. There's the history on some of these properties, and we really play in the pool of nostalgia more than anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, you really have to honor it and tell that story in a germane way. And
right.
To get that connection with the fans, because that's what they want. They want to recreate that story to the way they feel they own it.
Mm-hmm.
People feel that they own a piece of it, when you're a punk band, a lot of those early adopters feel they own the band. They're not a fan of the band, they own it. And then when the band comes big, it's like, they're like, that was my band. They always say, my band.
I was there from the beginning, before it was a big thing. Exactly. Yeah, the bragging rights. Mm-hmm. For sure.
And that part is important, because that shows you how powerful that story or that message was to that person.
Yeah. I think we have another comment or question.
What has been one of your most fun or interesting projects to work on?
What has been one of your most fun or interesting projects to work on?
My hair. No, I can't.
It looks like it takes some time. Are we using tea tree oil? Like
I'm like a Gandalf. It's like I need to figure out how to soften it, because it's like gray straw. Like a massive amount of gray straw.
We're gonna have to do a different live stream on how to take care of our hair. Is that
Yeah, I'm struggling to figure out how to make it soft like it was when I was young.
Like everything else in our life. Yes.
We approach each project with the sort of the same passion and zest and excitement. So it's hard to say looking back, because each one is a new sort of, it's a new path, a new exploration, and that exploration is fun. So
Right.
it can be, it could be Naruto, which is really fun. And it could be My Hero Academia or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Beetlejuice,
Right.
any of this. And they're really fun. They're really fun because we have to focus in on it and we have to give all of our passion to it. So they've all been fun. The new action figure format that we have called Best Action, that's really fun because we're trying to put our fingerprint on basically a very historied category, which is action figures.
Yeah.
And which is difficult to do because there's 40 years of action figures, right?
Yeah.
So we're trying to put our perspective of what we believe collectors will respond to, and again, that totem with energy, how it's like covered, how it comes to life, and how you can interact with it. So that's fun, and it's really a lot of just sort of the philosophy behind in choosing the raison d'etre, the reason to be, of why to build a product. That's always fun. So I can't necessarily nail it down to I've had as much fun working on How to Train My Dragon as, let's say, Spider-Man. I mean, to me, they're equally as fun, equally as palatable. And then, obviously, working with Slash and is like a trip. Dream come true, just because I'm such a huge fan of both of them. And I was in the Fairfax district in LA and West Hollywood for a very long time, and that's Slash's hood. That's where he grew up. So I feel a connection to that a little bit. I lived very close to the Guns N' Roses house. It's only a couple blocks from me.
That's funny.
So that's unique because there's a spirit in that neighborhood that I connected to as well. So it really kind of gets on a personal level,
So you have a new project then. So I would say it's not so much like what's your best thing, but what's your newest thing is probably your best action, right? That's kind of driving your juices, right? The creativity and also the business.
Yeah. So it's like, we have a couple different sort of categories. So we have a format called action bottles, which are these 3-inch stylized action figures. They're really fun and cool and collectible. There's like rare stuff, and we've made like 2,000 of them, and the catalog's very vast. It's like a world without borders, and where the Red Ranger could fight Mumra from Thundercats and makes perfect sense in our universe, and that's what it's meant to be.
Right.
It's like an action figure Super Smash Brothers kind of thing. But Best Action is taking that idea and turning it into an action figure format. So it's not like about doing a full Lord of the Rings statement. It's about bringing Gandalf in with Napoleon Dynamite, with Raiden from Big Trouble in Little China, and Edward Scissorhands. And then
oh my gosh, I love that movie too, by the way. Big Trouble in Little China. I could watch that forever. Right.
It's so great. It's such a genius movie. Carpenter's a genius. But yeah, so it's about taking that idea and then making these worlds less silo and less walled off, and making a pop culture a choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
With Best Action, which is really exciting.
Well, usually, people who are fans of something, they're not always just fans of one thing. They're fans of multiple properties, multiple genres, and one thing that when I was developing action figures at Hasbro is like, we know that kids don't respect those property boundaries. Like they'll just play, they'll take their sister's Ken Barbie and doll and smash it up against, their Transformer or their G.I. Joe or whatever. And the worlds collide. We're the only ones, the adults are the only ones saying, no, the world must be like this, right? Kids are going this way, crossing all of that. So I think we have another question or comment.
Another question. What has been the most memorable event that has happened during the TLS years? I know you recently had a great time talking to Angus.
We had a great time talking to Angus. What has been the most memorable event or activity that has happened throughout the TLS years?
We do these things called fan jams, which were wasn't even our idea. It was a collector's idea. And And this collector is really close to the company. He became a really good friend of the company. So he was like, why don't you guys throw a party for your fans? And so we did it, and it was at the first one was at San Diego Comic-Con at like a steakhouse where you like grill your own steak. It was really bizarre.
It's not Korean barbecue, huh? It's just
burger steaks. It was really funny. But we started a party there where we gave out posters and some cool stuff. And then we sort of evolved it to this like big celebration. And we started doing it at this restaurant called Tender Greens. One of my very good friends was the founder and owner of this restaurant chain called Tender Greens. So he had a restaurant in San Diego, and we like to do things in the family. We like to support, our friends' businesses and things like that. Yeah. So we started throwing it at Tender Greens, and it really became something because it was really about everybody else. TLS was just, I was just PT Barnum there.
Which is probably a fun role to play.
Yeah, totally. But all the players in the arena were the fans and the customers and the enthusiasts.
Fun.
And then so we really centered all these games around them communicating with each other and them interacting and connecting. And so those have become these like really fun, great staples. And then we had a collector that lives in Tennessee, and for reasons or not, he wasn't able to make it to San Diego Comic-Con. And he's such a passionate guy with such a big heart, and the whole community loves this guy so much. We actually took this fan jam idea to Nashville.
Oh wow! We started took it on the road.
Yeah, we started doing it in Nashville, and we've done a couple, and it's been really fun and exciting. So I think the ones where we can interact with the community, those are the greatest experiences for us.
Yeah, I have always loved that myself as well. I think for me it was always energizing, like re-energizing. It's like, all right, I go to work and I have to do spreadsheets and I have to figure out how much revenue I have to generate. But then when you get to see the stuff in action or with people who they don't know that you worked on that project and they're just like going on and on and on about this project or this item. I love this thing. It's so great. It does this, it does that. And they're telling me about the features of like something that I've worked on. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's great. But that's like, dang, that's awesome. This person they really enjoy it. They really like it. Yeah. We have something else. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All that passion.
So last question for both. What has been your all-time favorite property and why?
What has been your all-time favorite property and why?
That's hard. Again, I'll love all of them over again.
You love all your children the same.
I do. It's, Gretsico, I like as much as My Hero Academia, as much as I like My Little Pony, as G.I. Joe. My first loves in this pop culture arena that we've touched were G.I. Joe and Transformers.
Okay, yeah.
That pulls me back into, you're talking about running home to check out these cartoons. And part of it was those were the pauses and breaks either between Little League practice. I might go to the beach after and go surf when I was a kid, which was taking the bus down and going to salt or as a break before you had to start homework. So it was like this really valued time, of just to turn off, of just switch the channel and turn off and have fun. So those ones had an impact on me personally, probably.
Yeah.
So I think I've taken 3 pictures of me signing contracts. And the one picture I took, one was of my partnership, one was when I was signing my mortgage, and the other was signing the Hasbro contract.
Nice. That's awesome.
I think those are the only 3 pictures I ever took. Had someone take of me while I was signing something.
That's nice.
So
one more?
Yep.
That's our last one. We're going to run over time.
How does it feel knowing your brand has brought together a Facebook group of over 4,000 people together in true friendship and bonding? You've tied people from all backgrounds together.
So you tie people from all backgrounds together. And how does it feel that your community, your company has brought so many people together, especially on Facebook? They mentioned like 4,000 people on Facebook, but I'm sure it's bigger than that, than just what's on Facebook. But how does that feel to know that you were, part of that, bringing people together like that?
Yeah, that's cool. I think they're talking about a particular Facebook community that is fan driven, fan administrated, and like even in that, I'm literally I'm a passenger too. Yeah, it's actually owned by the fans.
Oh, wow.
So
That's amazing.
yeah, to see them come together and really pull this community in. The most it feels good to see the friendships. That's what feels good. You know, you described earlier about like-mindedness. So we all connect because we are like-minded, and we all connect over this object, but the object is just the handshake, and then the relationships happen. So
Right.
my joy is watching the relationships blossom, and now all these guys have a personality in these Facebook groups. There's a couple other Facebook groups that are pretty prolific too, centered around the loyal subjects, and watching them, they all have personalities. They're all kind of known to each other, and they communicate where they would have never even met each other.
Right.
And that's probably the most the most enjoying part of it, is watching everybody else connect.
Mm-hmm.
And me, I'm just a passenger there, and I just try to add and chime in and help where I can. But you know, I think the gratification is not so much us, but so much them. The credit really goes to them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So really creating these relationships, and really kind of centered around pop culture, but then it's really expanded because they actually know each other.
Mm-hmm.
They, you know, their families, they're very compassionate, they're very supportive of one another. I see these conversations, and you know, they come together for support too.
You start to build like your con family, right? Like, you know, fan conventions and stuff like where you don't see each other at any other given time period, or the fans don't get to see each other at any given time period until these moments in time, like the, you know, San Diego Comic-Con or the New York Comic-Con or the Star Wars Celebration or something like that, you know, where that's where you get to see these folks and you join in that moment in time. I myself have a con family, you know, where, you know, dipping in and out of that. And I would have never been able to have that experience unless I had been in this world, right? Working and living in this world.
Yeah, and it really goes back to that, you know, that like-mindedness. All are accepted. It's really a judgment-free zone, and it's a place where you can share your passions. You know, so that's what I love about it. I love that, you know, people have the freedom for self-expression, and then they also have each other's backs. They're very supportive of one another. To me, that's the most exciting thing. And if we could be a piece of that, and just a small piece, because it's really about everybody else, but just to focus, you know, being an introductory piece to make those two hands shake is awesome, obviously.
Right, you know? Right.
But
I agree.
Everybody else.
Well, you know, I agree. They have to put in the work, right? You know, somebody can open a door, open a window, what have you. They do the work. You're just providing an opportunity, you know, for them to connect on that piece, you know, or around that piece, you know, and the rest of them's up to them, really.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they know each other's handles, and they know each other by their handles. I mean, it's pretty cool.
It's funny how when you put something out to the world and then you see it like grow, right? And kind of see how other people take it on and, you know, live it. So that's kind of neat that way.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like you were saying, you might be head down in product development or spreadsheets and this, that. So sometimes you're immune to it because you're stuck in your own busyness. You know, so you don't really notice the impact because you're really and then when you step outside and take a look around and actually, you know, open your eyes, you go, oh, cool, that's what we've been working on. You know?
That's what I was doing all this time.
That's
for
cool.
sure.
That's great.
Well, John, this has been great. As I warned you, this time goes really fast. We're already starting to wind it down. But tell us where we can find you, the Loyal Subjects, you know, what's on the horizon, what's new?
Okay, cool. TheLoyalSubjects.com. You find us on Instagram, The Loyal Subjects. Facebook is The Loyal Subjects Co. And Twitter is Loyal Subjects. and don't ask me why. Half of them were taken when we started doing this. The little side, that was fun. But yeah, so look out. There's a lot of good stuff. I think we got a anime statement going to Walmart on July. I think collectors are really going to be excited about that. Some Lord of the Rings WWE pre-sales on Monday. I think they're pretty excited about that.
Oh, Monday. Be on the lookout.
Totally. And that's on our website. And then Best Action going into Walmart October 15th. And that's going to be really exciting. It's a music program, sort of entertainment, nostalgia, and an anime program, and a couple of our own IPs that are moving into retail, and will be Jan 15th of 2021. That's really exciting. So a lot to look out for in TLS Nation, and I'm always here to say hello to anybody that wants to say hello.
Yeah, of course. So thank you for coming by and saying hello. I learned a lot, even though I thought I knew a lot. I learned a lot from you, Jonathan. So thank you for that. It's been fun. It's always been good to like share fandom and swap stories and stuff with people. And hopefully we shared some knowledge with everyone who's out there as well. And we're, brave enough to stay along with our goofy entertainment. So thanks for showing up every week, everybody. If you're one of our regulars, thank you so much. Thank you for all the new folks who have tuned in today. Thanks again to Jonathan, and have a great, happy Fangirl Friday. See you all next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you later, Jonathan.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.